Hello and welcome all for the next session on cloud computing engineering approach. So far we have studied about the key definition, key characteristics of cloud computing and also its history and origin. In today's class we will be covering a single definition of cloud computing and 5 of its characteristics. Okay. The learning objective of today's lesson is very simple: to understand one definition of cloud computing and then articulate different characteristics of cloud computing. Okay. We all know that cloud computing is a big engineering system and it consists of many subsystems. Okay. So cloud computing is an engineering system and it is based on and built upon set of engineering systems developed over a period of time. And cloud computing is produced by the right combination of matured and evolving systems. So in this particular session, we will cover a general definition of cloud computing because that's a must, and also its fundamental characteristics. By characteristics, we mean those features of cloud computing which separates it from the other traditional systems. You know, because of the long history of the computing and because of the various technologies included in cloud computing, arriving at a very precise definition of cloud computing, which includes all its historical developments and all its features, is a challenge. However, we have one good definition, a practically acceptable definition from an organization called NIST. NIST is National Institute for Standards and Technology based in the United States. So they have working with many organizations and the entire industry. They have arrived at a simple definition, and today we will be considering that as the standard definition. According to NIST, cloud computing is a model for enabling ubiquitous. What it actually means is it will enable the user for having ubiquitous access. Ubiquitous means available everywhere. For example, cloud computing is available today in your laptop, in your school, in hospital, on the road, or on the office, in the railway station. So cloud computing enables you to access resources wherever you are as long as there is an internet connectivity. And a convenient means actually whenever you want to use any cloud computing resource, it's not very difficult to start with. All that you have to do is put on your machine and get connected to internet, it will start operating. There are no money barriers on that. And the third feature is on demand. On demand means whenever you want, actually you will get it. For example, in a traditional bank, suppose you want to borrow money, then you have to go during working hours. Whereas in ATM, it is on demand. Just you go in, swipe your card and get money. So that kind of a service where actually it is open all the time for a customer is actually called on demand. And the next property of cloud computing is a shared pool. What it actually means is, I have been telling in the previous videos also, in cloud computing there is no dedicated resource which is given to a particular user. All resources are shared and they are configurable. Configurable means suppose a single user using, then he can decide how much space that he wants, how much of speed that he wants, what color he has to choose. Whereas if there are 10 users, then an organization can choose what it needs. So the ability to decide the quantity and the quantum and also the nature and the depth of services is called configuration, and cloud computing comes with built-in provision. Okay. And thirdly, cloud computing is rapidly provisioned. So provision means any resource which can be given in terms of quantities of your choice. For example, when you go to a provisional store, you get a 10 kg of rice, 5 kgs of rice, 2 kgs of rice, and so on and so forth. And somebody might buy even 100 kgs or a quintal of rice. So it depends on the customer who want to buy, and the shop is always to give that quantity which you asked by the customer. Similarly, in cloud computing, you can start using resources as and when in the quantities of your choice. This is called provisioning. And released with a minimal management. What it actually means, suppose you avail a 20 GB of hard disk and suppose you think that your job is done, you don't need it any further, you can return it back, and this process is called releasing. So cloud computing essentially gives you a configuration ability and rapid provisioning and releasing whenever you want it. And the another fundamental idea of cloud computing is shared pool. That means no resource is actually dedicated to any one person. Now we look at the different characteristics which makes cloud computing. There are actually 5 cloud computing characteristics. The 6th one is added because of the practical consideration. The first one is called on-demand self-service. Okay. The second one is broadband network access. This talks about how can I access a cloud computing resource. And the third feature is called resource pooling. This is one feature which is very underlying to the success of cloud computing. And the next one is actually rapid elasticity. So the ability to expand and contract resources as and when a user wants is called elasticity. And the next one is actually measured service. So not only cloud computing gives you resources, it also keeps control on that, it can kind of a tab on that. It can say what to use, when to use, and so on. So that is called measurability. And finally, multi-tenancy. Multi-tenancy is an ability which I have covered in one of the earlier videos, where actually it gives you an ability to serve a couple of customers simultaneously. So let me consider each one of in detail. On demand. Computer services in this on-demand mode, such as email, application, network services, can be provided without requiring human interactions with a service provider. What it actually means is, I told you an earlier example. Suppose in a traditional bank, if you want to go and withdraw money, then you got to go there, give your check, and take a token. A person will give you the token, and then you have to go to a cashier or a teller and take that money. So that means this kind of a withdrawing actually involves 2 or 3 interaction with people or human resources. Whereas you go to ATM, this doesn't happen. You just go there, swipe your card, put your PIN number, and get the money. So everything is automated. So similarly in cloud computing, the service provider has automated the entire processes, so that actually you don't have to worry about that, and it is automated. So such kind of a service where actually resources are given directly to you without much intervention is called on demand. It is like an ATM. The second characteristic of cloud computing is broadband network access. What it actually means is, see, in the traditional technological sphere, one-to-one correspondence was there. Suppose you want to broadcast something on a radio, you need a radio to listen to that. If there is a broadcast on a TV, then you need a TV to listen to that. And if you have a landline, then you need a landline to access that. But whereas in cloud computing, the resources are actually distributed on broadband network. That means you can actually avail cloud computing resources on a computer network, also on a communication network like mobile or any other network. So this is called broadband. So cloud services are available over the internet and access through a standard mechanism that enable use by heterogeneous thick and thin clients. For example, you can access using a desktop or a laptop or even a mobile phone or PD, a personal digital assistant. So the second characteristic of cloud computing is broad network access. It is not a unique network. That means it doesn't force you to use only a particular network, be a mobile or any other thing. The third quality of cloud computing or a characteristic called resource pooling. We have already told you and repeated many a times that in cloud computing there is no personal dedicated resource. So as and when the demand changes, cloud computing resources are actually pooled together. What it actually means is, suppose a provider has 2 data centers in 2 different places, and if there is a lot of demand, then the service provider will actually combine his resources from 2 different data centers to serve a particular customer. So that is what is written here. While serving customers, the service provider's computing resources are pooled together. If he has 2 different computer centers, physical resources from those centers are actually pooled together to meet a particular demand. To serve multiple consumers using multi-tenant model. So that I will cover later. In different physical and virtual resources, what it actually means is, say suppose my college has 2 computer centers, one in computer science department and one in information science. If I actually use a cloud computing model and I don't distinguish the resources in IS and CS departments, whenever a customer wants, actually I will use the physical resources from both the center in order to meet his his demand. The pooled resources include storage, computer memory. Every physical resource, whether it's a network or a compute or a storage, is actually can be subjected to resource pooling. And what is the advantage? For a service provider, it gives economics of scale. What it actually means is, he can buy a commodity hardware like low-end machines or low-end hard disk and all, and they combine together and to provide an efficient and effective service to a customer. So the third quality of cloud computing is resource pooling. The third, the next, which is most important, is rapid elasticity. See, in a traditional computing, we always know the number of customers that we have plenty coming to us. For example, if I'm running a data structure lab, I know there will be 40 students for a particular batch. Or if I'm actually an online shopping person, I know the number of customers who will be coming at 11 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the evening on a daily basis. But cloud computing, is a global network, and it can be accessed through so many resources, channels. For that, actually, it is not possible to predict the number of customers who would be coming or number of users. For example, Gmail may get one user in morning and by 11 o'clock it may be getting millions of users. So in order to meet this kind of a unpredictable but growing demand, cloud computing comes with a feature called rapid elasticity. Elastic, we know, is something which actually can extract and contrast depending on the requirement. For example, elastic wears like dresses and all, they can fit to different size of people. So this is the feature of cloud computing. So what this does in practical terms is it will enable quick scale out. That means if I start with 10 customers, and all of a sudden due to some seasonal thing, if 20,000 customers come to my website, the rapid elasticity feature of cloud computing actually allows me to scale up, means scale out, that means grow further. And what is also beautiful about this actually, suppose my customers will actually come down very fastly. For example, after a seasonal activity, suppose my customers are coming only 10 or 20 particular day, then I don't have to buy the additional resource, I don't have to use the additional resource we already bought or which are already actually borrowed. I can actually return them. So this is called scaling in. So the beauty of rapid elasticity is it will allow you to grow and shrink depending on the need. What it actually means from the personal or end user perspective is it gives you a kind of an unlimited resource availability. So what it actually means is cloud computing promises you on demand, unlimited, actually in fact infinite resources. How does it do? It uses the combination of rapid elasticity and pooled resources to achieve this. The final and the most important another thing actually is called measured service. See, while cloud computing resources are very generous in getting, for example, you can get 50 GB of resources or other things. It also helps you to do a kind of a measurement. So everything that is given to you is measured. For example, when you open a Gmail account, it says you have been given 15 GB of hard disk space. And it is controlled. What it actually controlled is actually, it will allow you, it doesn't allow you to cross the 15 GB. And also allows, for example, suppose for some reason you need additional space or additional thing, actually it can be obtained in addition to the existing resources by paying little money. And it is reported to user. What it actually means is cloud computing not only gives your resources, not only measures it, it also reports back to you. So any Gmail user knows that whenever you open a Gmail page, the Gmail inbox, on the bottom line you see that you have been given 15 GB of resource and you are using only 23% of that. So this is called reporting. What is the practical meaning of this? Suppose you are using any cloud computing resource for your business purposes. What it means is you can also monitor whether you are using all the resources that you have been availing or whether you are using all the resources in a correct manner, whether all your employees are using the resources which have been allocated to them. So this is actually possible because cloud computing services are already measured services. And thirdly, and the metering capability, what it actually means is whenever you use a meter, both parties know what is being done. For example, suppose you are in a metro town, actually if you are going on an auto rickshaw, then the meter will indicate the quantity that the distance that is traveled and also the corresponding amount. So this will make it transparent. For example, suppose for some reason that you don't have enough money to pay the meter, you can always say I will get down here because this is the this is the amount that I have in my pocket. Similarly, in business, for example, suppose you indebted certain amount of resource, then if you think that your budget doesn't permit it to continue, you can always return because metering facility is available. And this also gives you a usage matrix. That means 3 months, 6 months paid, it will tell you what your consumers are using, what your organization is using, and so on, so forth. The final quality of cloud computing is multitenancy. Multitenancy is an idea which I already covered in another video, which allows an organization to run one instance of an application and help thousands of users to use it. So in a traditional computing, I have told you, you have your machine, your operating system, your application installed and you are using. So that idea is called single tenancy. One user, one application running at a given moment. But in cloud computing, since millions of users actually use this, it is not possible that I have a copy of an application to every user. So the computer technology has come up with a new idea called multitenancy. So multitenancy is an idea where one instance of an application like Gmail running on Gmail server can serve multiple users, many a times thousands of users. For example, there are examples of Salesforce.com applications of CRM and all, where actually one instance can support up to 5,000 users. Okay, and this is also very key characteristic of cloud computing. Although this is not included in the standard definition, this is also a very important. So let me summarize. There are 5 characteristics of cloud computing. On demand, it's available wherever you want, and it is like ATM. And broadband access, that means you can use heterogeneous devices starting from your laptop or your desktop or your server or your mobile or your PDA. And resource pooling and location independent. Resource pooling, I told you, whenever there is a demand, the cloud computing service provider will put together all the resources wherever they are and meet that particular demand. And location independent, what it actually means is you can access your resources from India, from your home, from your office, or even if you go to spaceship, cloud computing resources are accessible. Rapid elasticity is another quality where actually it will allow you to grow in number, grow in size rapidly, and also shrink in size as the demand actually occurs. For example, if you make an arrangement for 1,000 people to come for an examination and only you get 100 people, then also you can shrink the allocated resources. All of a sudden, suppose instead of 100,000 people come, then actually you can expand. This is called rapid elasticity. Final feature is measured service, where actually you get a resource which can not only be given to you, but it is measured. For example, 15 GB of this, or 2 computers, or 2 virtual machines, and so on and so forth. And they are controlled. Control means that usage is actually monitored. Yeah, thank you.